To stymie religious freedom. Say it ain't so, Zelensky. Say it ain't so. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black.
The first time ever any...
What are you people? We're Americans. We are Americans indeed. My name is Vincent. This is Middle America. We are not left wing. We are not right wing. We are just right. That's a joke, kinda. Okay, guys, I have not talked about the Ukraine conflict for quite some time. And that's largely due to the fact that, in my view, there's nothing really new to add. Obviously the conflict is still ongoing. Obviously, everybody knows my position as a person who wants to promote peace and love and unity. I obviously am always going to be against war and violence. Shout out to Ben Moen. Shout out to Ashura, Mike Cooper, Clarissa, gang. If you want to continue the conversation, we are at facebook.com/America Middle. Facebook.com/America Middle. Shout out to the big homie Applejack, who just got suspended by the beacon of free speech, known as Twitter, because he said voting is a scam. Yeah, so here we are. Okay, guys, so to be honest with you, I haven't done, and you guys know this, I haven't done much talks on Ukraine because, quite frankly, I really didn't have anything else to say. I think, when I first heard about it, I heard about it on another channel, and we were listening to a band, a Ukrainian band, and they were talking about freedom and all this stuff, and the Russians were hanging out at the border, so, I was rah-rah, Slava Ukraine, yada, 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 and then I started looking at the history, and after I started looking at the history and reporting what I have been seeing, and what we've all been seeing, that got styled as Russian propaganda, etc., etc. I have to say that the job done by the psychological operators in this country and other countries are top-notch. The best I've ever seen in my life. They've got it now to the point where any sort of criticism of Ukraine, there's another group of people like this too, I'll let you figure that out, but any sort of criticism of Ukraine automatically is Russian propaganda. Automatically. And it's a very brilliant tactic to stop a conversation and shut down a person's mind. The minute you hear anything, that Pavlovian response of Russian propaganda comes up, and then you're able to completely shut down the person you're trying to manipulate, and it's worked very effectively. Really said much about it because, quite frankly, I don't really see the value in it. I have seen people who have been sufficiently absorbed by psychological operators, and it's really, really difficult to get people out of it, especially if there is a rotating loop of confirmation bias by authorities, structures, etc. But we're about to watch this video with Tucker Carlson. What has Ukraine done that is wrong or debatable, Josh Morris says. Well, in the spirit of that, Josh, let's do some review, shall we? Let's do some review since you asked that question. Let's talk about that before we deal with this video. And by the way, my man Applejack just got, like I said, he just got banned. I don't know what your new handle is, but everybody follow Applejack on Twitter. Look, if you had to choose between following, believe you should follow him and not me. Okay, Josh, it's cool, bro. It's cool. Middle America is not an echo chamber. So you asked a question and it's on me to answer it. So let's do a brief review of Ukraine And then that, I think, will give us some context, inshallah, for this video with Tucker. Okay, let's go. So here's number one. Great old one in the house. Jo to go in the house. Ashura in the house. Aziz in the house. We got the all-star team in this bitch. Shout out to everybody. Thank you guys so much. Okay, here's a brief breakdown of Ukraine. Okay, here's NPR. National Public Radio. They're not a right-wing outlet, and I don't believe that they're affiliated with Russia. Zelensky has consolidated Ukraine's TV outlets and dissolved rival political parties. Notice NPR saying dissolving TV outlets. No, that's called nationalizing the media. You know, like during communist Russia, you have Pravda. Pravda means truth. And it was, you only could get your source from one news outlet, and that was a state-run media. That is exactly what Mr. Zelensky did 8 July 2022. He also banned rival political parties. You know how we only have a duopoly here, Democrat or Republican? We've got the Green Party, all these other parties, but they're not really significant. Most other countries have significant third, fourth, and fifth parties. One of them was a pro-peace quasi-socialist party called the Opposition Party for Life, and they were sort of a refusnik, anti-war at all costs group. He shut those down. Any group that was in any way, shape, or form conciliatory to Russia, saying we should make peace with Russia, considering we have a genetic, we share the border. At one point, the country was together, et cetera, et cetera. We have a fraternal relationship with these people. Any party that said that was immediately gone. So the only parties that are left now in Ukraine that have a voice are those that say we should continue the conflict and going along with the current mainstream Western narrative. And on top of that, the Ukrainian people are not allowed to see news from independent sources in their own country. Furthermore, since this date, anybody who believes anything that comes out of Ukrainian media, I'm sorry, but you got to think that through a little bit. Anytime you have a state-run media, you automatically should assume that anything they put forth is for the purposes of propaganda. Now, all of us knew this before Ukraine. All of us knew. If I would have said, listen, there is a guy and he is going to nationalize the media and ban political parties that are against his main thesis, all of us would collectively say that guy is an authoritarian. But for some reason, as I said, the psychological operators that are manipulating the minds of Americans and Western people have done such a good job that he can do something so boldly authoritarian. And there is no there's no backlash at it in the American media when we're supposed to be the beacon of free speech, etc. Okay, we continue. Here's Amnesty International. Amnesty International again. They did great work. I used to hate Amnesty International, by the way, because they'd always talk about what we're doing to people in Guantanamo. They would talk about the human rights atrocities, the sexual assaults, all the shit the U.S. military did. And you guys know how I was back in the day. It was America, and we could do no wrong. And if we did wrong, motherfuckers deserved it. So I hated Amnesty International. Of course, now that I saw some of that shit for myself close up, I'm very grateful that they were around. And we'll all have to answer to God. Okay, here we go. Amnesty International. Here's what Amnesty International. Now here's Josh. Putin has total control in Russia. He kills opposition. What does that have to do? Creating state-run media and destroying all of his political opponents. I thought Vladimir Putin was the worst human being on the planet. So if Zelensky is doing something analogous to the worst human being on the planet, wouldn't that make him also one of the worst human beings on the planet? Maybe they could tie for first? No? We continue. Here's Amnesty International. Ukrainian fighting tactics endanger civilians. Yes, dear listener. Military bases set up in residential areas, including schools and hospitals, Attacks launched from populated civilian areas. Such violations in no way justify Russia's indiscriminate attacks, which have killed and injured countless civilians. So you see there, Amnesty International cannot just criticize Ukraine. They've got to say, but Russia's still the bad guy, because they'll lose funding otherwise. Ukrainian forces have put civilians in harm's way by establishing bases and operating weapon systems in populated residential areas, including schools and hospitals, as they repelled the Russian invasion that began in February, Amnesty International said today. Such tactics violate international humanitarian law, which means they're war criminals. We continue. And endanger civilians as they turn civilian objects into military targets. The ensuing Russian strikes in populated areas have killed civilians and destroyed civilian infrastructure. We have documented a pattern of Ukrainian forces putting civilians at risk and violating the laws of war when they operate in populated areas, says Agnes Callamard, Amnesty International Secretary General. Being in a defensive position does not exempt the Ukrainian military from respecting international humanitarian law, end quote. That was Amnesty International spouting Russian propaganda about how these dudes are setting up howitzers at school. You remember about when the conflict popped off, I had a Telegram video of Ukrainian women confronting Ukrainian soldiers for setting up howitzers in a school. We talked about how the Ukrainians literally in Mariupol set up their base of operation in a hospital, which resulted in the death of a pregnant woman. When I brought in a pro-Ukrainian apologist on, she told me, hey, it's war, it is what it is. These people are war criminals. Russians are war criminals. Americans are war criminals. All the presidents in my lifetime have violated international law. So it would make sense that we would partner with a group like Ukraine who continues the American legacy. These people are using their children as cannon fodder so that they can win a propaganda war. Hezbollah does this, Hamas does this. They'll set up their training facilities, etc., in madrasas and masjids, and then when you go and blow up the masjid because it's full of weapons and whatever, now you get on TV, Israelis destroy mosques. They have no respect for the holy sites of Islam. It's a common tactic. It's a war crime, and the Ukrainians use it. But keep in mind, as my brother Josh Morris says, we don't hear about this stuff. Correct. And we have to ask the question, how come? No. Left Side Crew. The person that people said died, we actually played the interview of the young lady. She didn't die, but the girl next to her actually did die en route to the hospital. So here I am talking about how the Ukrainians set up their operations in a hospital, got the place completely destroyed, and the response is, well, the girl didn't really die. Okay. Here we go. Ukraine. Now, dear listener, this article is dated in 2020. This is an article that was written in 2020. 4 years on and still no justice for victims of enforced disappearance. What's up, Christine? Good to see you. 4 years after Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch exposed the secret detention of civilians by both sides of the conflict in eastern Ukraine, that means the Russian side as well as the Ukrainian side, the Donbass situation, no justice, truth, or reparation has been attained for any of the victims. In a joint statement released today, the two organizations said that not a single person suspected of involvement in this practice has been prosecuted. While the former inmates of the Ukrainian Security Services, that would be the SBU, secret prisons are still awaiting truth, justice, and reparation, the agency continues to deny well-established facts and blames Russian propaganda for the allegations it chooses not to face. The former inmates of the Ukrainian Security Service, that would be the SBU, secret prisons are still awaiting truth, justice, and reparation. The agency, the SBU, continues to deny well-established facts and blames Russian propaganda for allegations it chooses not to face, says Marie Struthers, head of the head of Amnesty International. So, again, what I've said to you guys over and over again, anytime you hear something negative about Ukraine, it immediately, the first knee-jerk reaction is Russian propaganda. Immediately. They've got y'all. They got you. This was in 2020, and they were talking about something that happened in 2016. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, both the left and the right arms of Russian propaganda, dear listener. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. Even if Ukraine is not clean, well, Josh, they're fascists, right? Fascists can only be done on the right. They're authoritarians. They're dictatorial. It's not that they're not clean. There's no such thing as a clean war. Like, for example, we bombed Dresden in World War II. There's no reason for us to bomb Dresden. It was over. We did that just to plain bitterness and anger and revenge. That's dirty. But overall, the war to stop Hitler and the Axis powers was a virtuous thing. But every country gets dirty in a war. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a systemic authoritarian rule that systematically keeps the people there in the dark, only gives them one version of the events 95% of the time, which is not true, using human shields, using women, children, and the pregnant and the disabled as human shields for propaganda. That's not being dirty. That's called being a consistent war criminal authoritarian. That's what that means. The SBU is saying anytime you see a fact that makes us look bad, it is Russian propaganda. Subhanallah. Oh boy. Let's see. What else is going on with the SBU? Well, there's this guy named Denis Kyriev. And at the beginning of the invasion, Denis Kyriev and a bunch of other people took a field trip to Russia to negotiate for peace and the cessation of conflict. You know, because Denis Kyriev loved Ukraine and Ukrainian people, and he knew what was about to happen. So after the invasion, Denis Kyriev led up a team to negotiate for peace. Now, I keep referring to this brother in the past tense. How come? Vincent, why do you keep referring to this guy in the past tense? Ukraine Security Service, that's the SBU, has reportedly shot and killed Denis Kyriev, a member of the Ukrainian negotiating team pictured far back on the right of the photo. He was apparently killed while resisting arrest on suspicion of treason. We covered this. What actually happened is the SBU accused him of being a traitor because he was negotiating for peace. They dragged him to the middle of a public square and shot him in the head. That's the SBU. That's the SBU. Here's Josh. Was the Russian invasion justified? Josh? Nobody has justified the Russian invasion. Now, I know what most Americans would want if they were in Russia's position, because we saw a run of this during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So I know what Americans would want. And I know what you would want if you were surrounded by a hostile actor who could really hurt you and was tightening the noose. But I'm not even going to touch that. I'll just say, logically speaking, no. However, that's not the subject. Because you know why? We have not given $100 billion to Russia in the last 365 days. We've given $100 billion plus to this country. We still got issues in Flint. We got issues in Mississippi. Inflation is not doing very well. I know the midterms are over, but we still have an inflation problem. My thesis is, Josh, we could be doing a lot more with that $100 billion. Like, for example, we could be feeding all the starving children in Yemen who are literally starving to death and dying in their mother's arms because we are supporting a proxy war with the Saudis who have a Shia-Sunni beef with the Yemeni people. Like, that would be one alternative. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's continue. Let's continue to talk about the SBU, dear listener. Officials across Europe. I don't think it's completely fair to the agency to say they're CIA trained. Terrorized by the CIA-trained SBU security service, Gennady Mostagora, mayor of Kupiansk, released this video appealing to Zelensky for the release of his daughter, who was kidnapped and is held hostage by agents of the SBU. So look, killing Denis Kyriv, that's a grown man. It is what it is. You knew the risks. They kidnapped this dude's daughter. They kidnapped his daughter. This is the mayor of the town. Notice he doesn't have any pictures of Stefan Bandera in his background. That's probably why his daughter's kidnapped. That's the SBU. That is Ukraine. That is Ukraine. Here we go. We continue. Here's the SBU. This is Amnesty International, by the way. Again. Numerous previously reported violations of international humanitarian law by both sides of the conflict remain uninvestigated. No progress was made in attaining justice for victims of enforced disappearance, torture, and unlawful detention by the SBU in eastern Ukraine from 2014 to 2016. The practice of a single alleged perpetrator, end quote. Yeah, I got you, Josh. I got you. We're good. Type 22 if you're hearing my mic okay. Type 22 if you're hearing my mic okay. There it is. Your mic is cutting. I don't think tape's gonna do it. We restored it. We're back. We're back in action. Type 22 if you can hear me and I'm not cutting in and out. I just refixed it. See, if I had this one, if I could find a solution for this one, I'd use this one. 22. Are we in and out? Are we in and out, or are we back in action? Type 22. Okay. It's looking good. It's looking good. Okay, let me read that. Ashura, nice try, buddy. Nice try, Ashura. Let me read that one again for y'all. Numerous previously reported violations of international humanitarian law by both sides of the conflict remain uninvestigated. No progress was made in attaining justice for victims of enforced disappearance, torture, and unlawful detention by the SBU in eastern Ukraine from 2014 to 2016. The practice of using secret prisons continued to be officially denied, etc. That is Ukraine. That is the SBU. That is what they do. Okay. Now, having said that, here is Tucker Carlson. Here's Tucker Carlson discussing the situation currently, because we've got a new wrinkle. We've got a new wrinkle in time, dear listener, because there's a new issue in Ukraine. And so let's check it out. Because, you know, Zelensky just got voted the man of the year by Time magazine. By the way, my position on Zelensky's Jewish. My position on Zelensky is that he is caught between a rock and a hard place. He's caught between the most powerful country in the world, who obviously wants this proxy war to continue, and he's also caught on the other side by delusional neo-Nazis who truly believe that they can overcome Russia's military, and they're not going to surrender at any. Their mindset is no different from a jihadist or whatever, you know, death before dishonor or whatever. And so he's caught in between the two. The SBU, we covered this as well. The SBU has actually explicitly threatened that if Zelensky ever betrayed Ukraine, that they would execute him and hang him up in the middle of the public square. Okay? So And they proved that by what they did to Dennis Kyrie. So my position on Zelensky is that he's it's a rock and a hard place, and if he could disappear from the planet tomorrow, he would, to get himself out of this situation. So I think the only sin I think Zelensky has committed is cowardice. And if you read your Bible in Revelation 21, Jesus says that the cowards are outside the kingdom. Cowards go to hell. So cowardice is a really horrible sin. So I don't want to minimize it, but I don't believe that Zelensky likes all this shit. I don't believe that he likes the authoritarianism. I don't believe that he likes all this oppressive shit that they're doing. I certainly don't believe that he supports setting up howitzers by daycares. I don't believe he supports that. He's just stuck, and he values his life more than the lives of the Ukrainian civilians that are surely going to die. Okay. Here we go. Tucker Carlson is telling us about Zelensky. Here we go.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. So you remember when Russia invaded Ukraine in February, and at that time our leaders told us this wasn't some faraway conflict in Eastern Europe. This was our war. No military should ever be allowed to invade a sovereign nation, they told us. Iraq and Afghanistan obviously not included in that rule. The invasion of Ukraine...
That's why I was saying, like, all at the beginning of this, all these Americans were pretending to be outraged. I'm like, are you guys been asleep for the last 20 years? The Russia invaded a sovereign country, subhanAllah. At least the Russians had a way better argument than we did. We were arguing for phantom weapons of mass destruction. We were sending the Ukraine. I read a Vox article a couple years ago. It said Ukraine was a dumping ground for U.S. military assets. I was talking to somebody, and he essentially said, from my view, this kind of looks like we're just using them to test out some of our new weapon systems. We continue.
Could not stand because it was a matter of first principles. But more than that, it was a world historic moral battle that we were obligated to join. It was very clear Vladimir Putin was pure evil. He was Hitler reborn. The Ukrainian President Zelensky was his mirror image. He was saint-like.
Right. It's Cain and Abel. It's a Cain and Abel concept. So Putin is Cain, and therefore all the Russians are Cain. And Zelensky is Abel, therefore all the Russians are Abel. It's a brilliant tactic.
Self-denying, brave, honest, very handsome. And Zelensky was fighting for the very same ideals that our country was founded on. A number of news outlets, including CNN and the LA Times, compared him to George Washington. So they told us that.
I'm pretty sure George Washington extracted the teeth out of the mouth of his slaves for his dentures. So I wouldn't. I have problems with Zelensky, but I would not insult him to that degree. We continue.
With one voice, month after month. No disagreement allowed.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I didn't verify it myself.
My partner in crime is responding. Go ahead.
I heard that they were pulling people's teeth out over there. If they had golden teeth, they were pulling them out. I don't know if
The Ukrainians were?
Yeah, the Ukrainians were.
I haven't seen anything like that.
When the person brought that up to me, I brought up that used to happen.
I haven't seen that. I mean, tooth extraction or nail extraction is a form of torture that gets used pretty effectively.
I guess but it was a photo, I think, of a bowl of their teeth. I don't know if it's
I mean,
true or not.
yeah. I mean,
Sorry,
I mean,
verify.
no. There's no nothing to apologize for. I personally wouldn't believe it until I see it. I mean, there's enough videos of Ukrainians torturing their own civilians. I mean, I showed you the one where they tied people to posts, stripped them naked, all types of shit.
Horrible.
Yeah.
That still disturbs me.
Yeah, for sure.
Not surprisingly, it worked. Americans fell hard for President Zelensky.
You did. You did.
They all did. Even in rural areas that voted against Joe Biden, you saw Ukrainian flags hanging from mailboxes. To many people, it felt like World War II again, the good war.
They want you to come on. You don't want to? Okay. Hey, I want her on. She doesn't. We continue.
A battle against tyranny abroad for the sake of freedom and democracy at home. Well, the better part of a year later, it's getting harder and harder.
Not sure if teeth pulling or sitting in Congress is worse torture. That was all it shows up right now is Facebook user. I don't know who said that, but whoever did, you're funny as hell, bro. We continue.
To believe any of this, whatever you think of the war in Ukraine, it is pretty clear that Zelensky has no interest in freedom and democracy. In fact, Zelensky is far closer to Lenin than to George Washington. He is a dictator. He is a dangerous authoritarian who has used $100 billion in U.S. tax dollars to erect a one-party police state in Ukraine. And that's not an overstatement.
We've already demonstrated how that's true. Now, there's a sense in which Tucker's right because Zelensky is a figurehead of the country. But as I've said, to me, there's enough information to say this guy is not doing this from his heart. He's doing this to preserve his life. I don't believe that this is who he is as a person. I mean, this guy was a comedian actor before he got thrust into the role. And there have been a couple times in history where we've propped people up that have absolutely no credentials for this job. And it's for that specific reason. They're much more malleable. They do not have a fully developed socioeconomic theory of their own. And so you can kind of shape and mold them. We saw this when we overheard our agency folks talking about who the next leader of Ukraine was going to be prior to the coup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I don't believe that. I think Hunter Tucker, if you're being completely logical, can say that Zelensky's a dictator, whatever. I don't believe he is. I believe that he understands that if he doesn't go along with us, we will not protect him from the SBU, and the SBU will kill him and set up just another pro-war whatever. Because at this, yeah, he has a family, and he knows that this dude's the mayor just got his daughter kidnapped 9 months ago. What would you do? It's not like you can flee to America for help. America is the one that's funding the Nazis that are telling you to do X, Y, and Z thing. So that's not something I can verify. I'm just looking at it from, we showed the video where he went to the eastern, the Donbass region and confronted those soldiers and told them to stop shelling. And the dudes laughed in his face.
Right.
They laughed at him. He said, "Well, you think I'm a sucker?" And the guy laughed at him. And then his other guy stepped up in an aggressive posture on camera. So that tells me that this dude doesn't want to kill a bunch of civilians. He just wants to be happy, wants to be happy, chill out, tell some jokes, and get on with life. I don't believe that he's that kind of an actor. Now, I don't have any proof for that. So all my proof is circumstantial for that. So you have to go with this and say, okay, you could say he's doing dictatorial actions, but I don't believe that he himself is a dictator. Okay, we continue.
Over the past year, Zelensky has banned opposition parties. He shut down critical media by force. He's arrested his political opponents. He has sent soldiers into churches. Zelensky's secret police have raided monasteries across Ukraine, even a convent full of nuns, and arrested dozens of priests for no justifiable reason whatsoever and in clear violation of the Ukrainian constitution, which no longer matters.
Dear listener, you and I can pretty much surmise what the excuse of doing this sort of dictatorial human rights violation is, right? They're going to say something relative to, they're supporting the Russians. Dear listener, do you remember after 9/11 and we had the USA Patriot Act? Who were the number one targets of the USA Patriot Act? That's right, Muslims. I can tell you definitively, I know with 100% certainty, we were sending agents, and not FBI. We were sending folks from different alphabet groups and implanting them in masjids for years. And do you remember what the left-wingers were doing when that was happening? The left-wingers were saying, that is wrong. That kind of hyper-surveillance of a group of people is wrong. And then the retort was, I was a hardcore Republican. I was a very, very blood-hungry young person who had just seen my city get attacked. The response was, well, it's Muslims who are doing this, and it's Muslims who are declaring jihad on us, etc., etc., etc. And if a mosque is a meeting area for Muslims, I want to know what the hell those people are saying. I was wrong. I was wrong. That's completely against America's goals and ideals. And if you say we're violating our goals and ideals to protect America, what are you protecting? It doesn't make any logical sense. That's what the left was telling me all through the Bush years. You guys were saying if we don't hold up principles of integrity when we're tested, then we don't mean any of this shit. And I would say, you silly, limp-wristed leftist, you blah, 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 idealist, blah, blah, blah. And then I had certain experiences which delineated very clearly that my silly little limp-wristed rainbow shirt wearing left-wing friend was 100,000% correct. And I was wrong. Now, I know what the Ukrainians are going to say. And the reason I know is because it was used to justify nationalizing the media. It was used to justify unseating your political rivals. And the same group of people who guided me relative to freedom, etc., when I was a rabid right-winger and I was caught up in government propaganda and I was a bot for the psychological operators, literally all they had to do was point and click. It was the left that was the only voice that was penetrating through that morass and saying, hey man, when you're tested, that's when what you are really shows up. So we're being tested now. We're showing ourselves to be dictatorial, fascistic, whatever, authoritarian, whatever. So now that I've matured and grown and had those experiences, what did I expect the left to say when Zelensky started nationalizing the media, when Zelensky started unseating political rivals? What did I expect the left to say? I expected the left to criticize him. They didn't. The left justified it. And they're going to justify this. They're going to say, well, they're connected to the Orthodox Church in Russia, blah, blah, blah. And so because of that, we should send the security services to run up on nuns in a convent. You know, those nuns in a convent, they'll turn around a war, those nuns, praying and stuff in the same habits that they wear for 15 years with their vows of silence and shit. You know, Vladimir Putin is he's damn near omnipotent. He can use anything, including nuns. We continue.
And in the face of this, the Biden administration has said nothing, not one word. Instead, they just continue to push to send Zelensky more tax dollars. So naturally, Zelensky has become much bolder. Why wouldn't he?
Well, I don't think Zelensky's getting bolder. I think the people that are controlling him are getting bolder. And your point is well taken. Why wouldn't they?
Last week, he announced his plan to ban an entire religion, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and to seize its property, all for being insufficient.
Ban the church and seize their property. I had to do a lot of work because it's in Ukrainian or Cyrillic, whatever it is, and I had to do some work and change the whole thing. But that's essentially true.
Sufficiently loyal to his regime. And he said it out loud. Watch this.
We have to create such conditions when any people dependent on the country aggressor won't be able to manipulate Ukrainians and weaken Ukraine from within. First, the National Security and Defense Council instructed the government to submit to the Verkhovna Rada.
Did you hear that? The National Security and Defense Council told the government to do XYZ. So when I say I don't think this is coming from him, he just said it. I'm not here to defend Zelensky. I'm not a fan of Zelensky. I think it's ridiculous that they've got him as man of the year. I'm just saying, from what I'm reading, this guy is a guy, he's textbook compromised, in my view. Here we go. Well, I don't know who's saying this. I have a good idea, though. Why are we listening to Tucker Carlson, known great replacement believer and racist when it comes to Ukrainian Nazi propaganda? Tucker Carlson is someone an American neo-Nazi watches and supports daily. That's because, dear friend, I'm not going to commit what's known as the genetic fallacy, which is to say I'm going to disregard what you have to say because of what you believed previously. Dear listener, if you say that Tucker Carlson is a supporter of Nazis, what do you call Joe Biden, who's sending billions of dollars to Nazis?
Exactly.
Should we not listen to anybody who disagrees with us? I mean, as a black person, should I not listen to any racists? I couldn't listen to anybody. What are you talking about? Racism is America's pastime. Should we not read the Constitution? It was penned by racists. Even if they didn't own slaves, they were still racist. You heard Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln said, look, I believe in a genetic superiority between the races. And me personally, I believe that the superiority goes to the white man. I do not believe that Negroes should be able to vote or serve in a jury, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all we have are racists. So if I'm going to disregard what a person says because they're a racist, then I can't listen to anybody, which is half of the people on my channel, by the way. You know all those people that support Planned Parenthood for setting up abortion clinics by in the ghetto at like a 4-to-1 ratio, then as opposed to white people? We continue. Thank you for the question, though. It's very useful.
A draft law on making it impossible for religious organizations affiliated with centers of influence.
Let's
all for
rewind
being
that.
insufficiently loyal to his regime. And he said it out loud. Watch this.
Маємо створити такі умови, коли
We have to create such conditions when any people dependent on the country aggressor won't be able to manipulate Ukrainians and weaken Ukraine from within. First, the National Security and Defense Council instructed the government to submit to the Verkhovna Rada.
The National Defense Council instructed the government to submit.
What?
So he's telling you. I'm not defending Zelensky. I'm just telling you, that's my thesis. He's telling you that. The National Security Council told us to do, we're going to submit to them. Then who's in control of the government, the National Security? That would be the SBU. That would be the same people. Facebook user, I don't know. He's saying, I don't see left-leaning networks inviting right-wingers on their networks to speak freely and see their point of view. But I do on the opposite side. Yeah, that's because you're probably not black, so you have probably a different understanding of racism than I would. So that's probably why the disconnect. But we don't need to worry about Tucker Carlson. This man just said it out of his own mouth that he's submitting to the SBU. So who's in control of the government? The SBU. So when we give Vladimir Zelensky, Voldemort, whatever you want to call him, all these billions of dollars, he just told us there's a body that he submits to.
Law on making it impossible for religious organizations affiliated with centers of influence in the Russian Federation to operate in Ukraine.
Listen, Facebook user, you are invited, because I don't want you to feel like you're being ignored. You're invited to call in. So you can call in and we can have this discussion. You're saying they're giving it to Ukraine, not Nazis. This man just told you that he submits to the SBU when they tell him to do something. So I would love for us to be able to have a conversation. Call in. You'll be able to speak as long as you possibly can, because you're saying a lot of things and I think they're very important, but it's going to get us off track from what I'm doing here. So if you can call in, we can have the discussion. That would be more fruitful. We continue.
A free country does not ban a major religion just because it's not fully on board with the political program of the people running the country.
Unbelievable.
But Zelensky's doing that, and his cabinet is now devising ways to punish Christians for practicing their banned ancient religion in Ukraine. Quote, personal, economic, and restrictive sanctions will be applied to any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways.
Okay, so I looked far and wide for that quote. Personal, blah, 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 sanctions are going to get hit for everybody that any Christian found worshiping improperly. I could not find that at all. I actually found the actual document, including the addendum, and they do mention sanctions, and they do talk about restrictive measures. Here we go. But they do not use the term anybody who's not worshiping correctly. That's just not true. I'm not going to say.
Tucker changed that because of his audience.
Yeah, he added Christians not worshiping correctly. This is actually the official document and the announcement from the Ukraine website itself. It's just translated, but I just hit they had like 7 or 8 points. I just hit the one that was closest to what Tucker was saying. Apply personal, special, economic, and other restrictive measures, sanctions to natural persons in accordance with the appendix. The Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, together with the Security Service of Ukraine, that is the SBU, and National Bank of Ukraine shall ensure the implementation. See, they've got a state bank. You got state media, you got a state bank. And they're declaring economic warfare on people, their own citizens. In the church. This is specifically for the church. The effectiveness of personal, special, economic, and other restrictive measures provided in Clause 5 of this decision. Okay, so I'm not gonna say this is what happens when you listen to a person that you don't trust. I don't trust Tucker Carlson, and by the way, you shouldn't trust any talking head in mainstream media. But even though I don't trust him, I'm still going to take what he says and measure what he says based on the evidence. So he made that statement. In my view, he added that line, not worshiping correctly, to make it sound worse. In my view, all that we saw, this is the actual document itself. They said they were going to institute personal sanctions against people in these churches and that they were going to monitor the effectiveness of said sanctions. That we know is true. The other stuff, I'm going to for now say you added that, bro. You added that. Okay, we continue.
Now, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is more than 1,000 years old. With the full backing of the Joe Biden administration and the U.S. Congress, Zelensky has decided to ban it. So here's the response of one bishop to the news.
That's just beautiful to me. Look, of all the atrocities that I mentioned relative to Ukraine, this one is the least troubling to me as a Christian. And the reason for that is very simple. At this point in world history, the church has demonstrated very clearly that we're not very good when we have power, but we are fucking awesome when we're being persecuted. That girl, when that Christian church is getting persecuted, we're the most beautiful people on the planet, full of bravery, love for enemy, love for neighbor. I love it. I love it. So I'm actually, I don't want to say I'm a little bit jealous because the scripture says you're supposed to pray for peace, for kings and rulers and authorities so we can conduct our business. So I'm not going to say that I want this to happen in America. What I will say is I don't feel sorry for a single one of these people. I believe within the smallest atom in the marrow of my bones that these Ukrainian Christians and Russian Orthodox Christians, if they remain faithful, will inherit 58 million galaxies to rule in the coming age. So I don't feel bad. I don't feel sorry for these people in any way, shape, or form at all. But when you pull out when you look at it from the secular perspective, this is not the way democracies are supposed to run, dear listener. They're just not. You cannot do stuff like this and seriously call yourself a democracy. And I had a friend when he was at the height of his Trump mania. He asked the question. You remember when they put out the Russians are collaborating with the Taliban to kill American soldiers?
Oh, yeah, I do actually.
I'm so happy there's a comment section. Go look at those videos. I did about 3 or 4 of those videos. You know, all these people saying all that shit. But anyway, Okay. All right. We continue.
You're not allowed to send soldiers into churches. You're not allowed to arrest dozens of priests because they refuse to bow before you. You're not allowed to ban whole religions. So most of the U.S. media, have just ignored this. Some have made excuses for it. Oh, he has to do this because there's a war.
A lot of you leftists, to be honest with you, you're Christophobic. You hate Christians. If you're LGBT, I completely understand why. But the fact of the matter is you guys have a deep hate in your heart for Christians. I understand. So most of you don't care that this is happening. But I'm just saying this to challenge you on your supposed love for democracy and human sanctity and autonomy. We continue.
But there's no justification for this whatsoever. The Ukrainian Orthodox Church is not Russian, it's Ukrainian. It has no connection to the Putin government. It has in fact officially denounced the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So
it has? It's officially denounced the Russian. I don't know about that, Tucker. We got to fact check you again, bruh. We gotta fact check Tucker again. What do you mean you denounced Ukraine? Let me see here. The Kiev Metropolitan, that's the Archbishop in the Orthodox hierarchy. Onfrey Berzovsky, the UOC, that would be the church that's in trouble, appealed to Putin for an immediate end to this fratricidal war. The Archbishop of the capital of Ukraine, explicitly appealed to Vladimir Putin and said, stop, put an immediate end to this fratricidal war. We are brothers. We're genetically linked. What are you doing? And another UOC Metropolitan, Ephology, from the eastern city of Sumy, told his priest to stop praying for Kirill. Kirill is one of the main bishops in Russia. And when the invasion started, he said, this is great. Vladimir Putin is trying to save Ukraine from the gay people. He literally said, from the gay parade, from the homosexuals. He literally said that.
Oh my God.
So in response to his support, because the Ukrainian Orthodox and the Russian Orthodox were obviously bonded to one another. In response to that, the Archbishop instructed his priest, stop praying for that guy.
No. What?
Stop praying for him. Which is, I know that.
Which one said it to which?
So the Russian Archbishop said, this is great that this invasion is happening. Yeah. The Ukrainians, the group that just got banned by Zelensky, they first said, you need to put an end to this fratricidal war. They denounced it. And secondly, they said, oh yeah, the Russian guy who supports this, do not pray for him. A complete denouncement.
So
and
the Ukrainians that said, don't support the Russian. Don't keep praying for the Russian.
Don't keep praying for the Russian priest.
That's crazy.
And they've been
pray for.
Well, you that's an actual that's a technical move in Orthodoxy. You know, in 1 John when it says there is a sin that leads to death.
Yeah.
And then he says, what did he say after that? I'm not telling you to pray for that guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
So when you say I'm not praying for you in a New Testament context, you're saying this guy's beyond help. That's what they're saying. They're saying, so when he tells his priest, do not pray for that guy, what he's saying is that guy is beyond help.
Wow.
So that is the Ukrainian Orthodox position on what is going on from the religious perspective. That is the group that just got shut down by the SBU. We continue.
Once again, there is no justification for destroying and banning this church. And yet Zelensky's many celebrity backers in the West have said nothing about it.
Correct.
And they should know better. In May, George W. Bush, the great defender of Christendom, met with Zelensky on a Zoom call and afterward described him as the Winston Churchill of our time, a man...
Winston Churchill, Winston Churchill when the Brits were getting destroyed by the Nazis and the Nazis had like the superior air force and all the technology and it looked like they were winning and that England was subsumed. All we have to fear is fear itself. All that shit. He was motivating people, all types of shit. Like he stood strong. He basically kept the Western world on their feet until we got our act together to join and help in the war. But the Russians bore the brunt of where would we all be were it not for Russia? Here's Perkinos, who I was praying to God would show up, and here he is. The UOC is part of the Moscow Patriarchate. They are supposed to mention the Patriarch of Moscow during the liturgy. That isn't Kirill in the liturgy, including by Metropolitan, is significant. So to leave that guy out is massively significant. It is a clear repudiation politically, because he said he addressed Putin on the political level and said end this fratricidal war, and then spiritually they said we are breaking with you if you support this. That's the group that's getting shut down right now by the SBU. We continue.
Who should be praised for his, quote, commitment to liberty. So where's George W. Bush on this question? Now that his friend, the George Washington of Ukraine, has banned a form of Christianity in that country. Well, George W. Bush has been silent as well. So have many purportedly Christian members of Congress. They're backing Zelensky no matter how many Christians he arrests, no matter how many churches he seizes.
To the Ukrainian people, you can expect the Congress to be there with you in terms of supporting your efforts to maintain your freedom.
Everything that we can do to be helpful to them as they fight for their freedom.
I think the history of the 21st century turns on how fiercely we defend freedom in Ukraine.
We will continue to provide military equipment so that Ukraine can defend its territory and its freedom.
The United States will continue our unwavering support for Ukraine as it defends its freedom.
And let's get the job done so that we can save lives in Ukraine and defend the cause of freedom.
The free world had no choice. America could not stand by. The American people did what they always have done: defend freedom around the world.
Every single...
So let me get this straight. You got secret police that are jamming people up, sending them to black sites, no constitutional protections whatsoever. That's a free country. You got kids that can't go to school because the military is setting up howitzers by their daycare so they could get bombed to smithereens. That's a free country. You got people setting up talks or operating bases in hospitals so that pregnant women can get the shit bombed out of them. That's a free country. And now we've got the suppression of the media, nationalizing the media so that only one group of people can tell us what's going on over there. That's a free country. You know what happened? That dude that was doing the Sieg Heil thing? Yeah. That got posted by CNN and I think Reuters. The Ukrainians immediately kicked him out for doing that, for showing that the guy was doing the Nazi salute. I had a beautiful sister tell me, "Well, we got a Nazi problem in America too." Not like that. No, we don't. I keep telling people, the grandfathers of neo-Nazis in America killed Nazis. The grandfathers of neo-Nazis in Ukraine killed Jews. Not the same thing. We continue.
The person you just watched has campaigned, many of them make a habit of campaigning, Lindsey Graham, ladies and gentlemen, in Christian churches in the United States. Will a single Christian leader say anything to them about this? You are funding the destruction of Christianity in Ukraine? Oh, but it's the cause of freedom. Really? The reality...
How embarrassing is it that Tucker Carlson has to call out Christians in America to defend their own people?
Honestly, I can't believe it. I was embarrassed listening to this.
This, when I got back and I got out of everything, I went on a giant pacifism kick. I mean, I'm still on the pacifism kick because I'm starting to see even more now how necessary this is. The Christian church in America, Jesus, it is impossible, and I've done this. I've had moderated debates about this topic. It is impossible to justify any form of killing, even in self-defense from a New Testament perspective. Impossible. But the Christian church in America has no problem with war, has no problem with jihad, but will not speak out because they don't want to be against the tide. We are not, as a principle, ever supposed to support war and killing. And I wish after 9/11 and things of that nature that I had an OG Christian who could take me aside and say, I understand you're angry, you got blood in your mouth right now, you want to kill a bunch of people, but we don't do that as Christians. Nobody told me that, dear listener. We continue.
Is that Ukrainians cannot listen to media outlets that criticize the Zelensky government because they've been banned. They cannot play music from Russian singers. No, this is not in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. This is in the democracy of Ukraine.
That's true. They can't play music from Russian singers at all. And the whole world Look, there it is. There's a difference between murder and killing. Listen, anybody that wants to debate me on whether or not we can kill someone, even in self-defense from a New Testament perspective, I'm willing and ready to able. We will debate. I will affirm. I will deny that there's any form of killing. You can affirm it. We'll set up a moderator. We'll have that debate. If you feel confident that the New Testament allows for that, we'll have that debate. I'd love to have that discussion. But yeah, they posted they posted a video of the Ukrainian entering Kherson during the Nazi salute. Remember they had that big victory in Kherson? So the guy's up there, Ukrainian flag is going, Slava Ukraine, doing this shit. I put that up on I put that up on the Middle America, Facebook.com/American Middle, because Kanye West's the worst person in the world, putting that tweet out about them Jews. And then they did this thing, and everybody. Well, that's not necessarily a Nazi salute, but the rest of the Ukrainian apologists they just ignored it. They're like, "What's that? Was he pointing to something? Maybe there's a bird in the air." Even Jesus told his followers to carry. So you know what? I will debate 3 people at the same time on this topic. I'm not even joking. The sell your cloak and buy a sword is literally the worst verse possible to try to defend that position. But I would love to be able to explicate that in a moderated debate. Yes, we continue. Yeah. It's Ismael Lopez, who I've never seen before, said they were just hailing a cab. He's right there. He's just doing. Hey, he's like, hey. I mean, I don't understand because he was riding on a float. He was afloat, so I don't know why he needed a cab. But it couldn't be that the guy's a fucking Nazi, and it couldn't be that the crowd lining the street were Nazi sympathizers. Exactly. That's what people don't understand. I don't care if one random guy does a Sieg Heil. Who the fuck was he doing it to? Right. On a float. Can you imagine the Macy's Day Parade, somebody doing this shit? No. Do you understand what would happen to that?
Oh my gosh.
Listen, I was there. I took my little brother, the KKK. We were going to do some rally in Manhattan. They were going to do a rally in Manhattan. There's this big giant thing. There was an article about the cop who had to protect him on the subway, all types of shit. No bullshit. Me and my brother, I said, I said, Jamie, I'm going to that thing. Now, if you want to be a square and go to school, go for it. Or if you want to roll the dice with me, we're going to do that. We're going to do this shit. So me, Sharif, Sharif had his little, he was ready for war. We showed up there. I kid you not. Those motherfuckers took about 10 steps, and it was so fucking hostile that they had to get police escort to get them in the car and get them the fuck out of Dodge, bro. Yo. That was New York City. People say, we got a Nazi problem in America. Stop it. Stop. This dude, after a giant victory, he was hailing a cab. He was hailing a cab to go to the taxi. Yo, I don't know who this Ismael Lopez is, but that nigga funny as hell, bro. He said he was hailing a cab. We continue.
That we support. They can't play music from Russian singers. They can't vote for an opposition party because they've all been shut.
I would love to see you try and set up a debate with a YouTuber about Ukraine and the Nazi issue. They've debated this before. Guys, bring whoever. I don't care. This is not a debatable issue. They've got streets named after this motherfucker. The fucking mayor of Kiev had Stefan Bandera in the background. Like, this is not a debatable issue. And as I said, and I'm probably, you're showing up as Facebook user, but I probably know who you are. As I said, Vox, New York Post, New York Times, all of these outlets for years were saying there was a serious Nazi problem in Ukraine. And let me go back to Amnesty International, because Amnesty International is very interesting. Here you go. While the former inmates of the Ukrainian security SBU's secret prisons are still waiting the truth, justice, and reparation, the agency continues to deny well-established facts and blames Russian propaganda for allegations it chooses not to face. Every single time these people get exposed for the Nazi murderers they always say it's Russian propaganda. This is not a debatable issue. That place has Nazism built into its soil. That's a fact. That's a fact. And it's crazy to me that the people who could find Nazism under every rock with Trump can't see the fucking obvious.
Yeah.
If the guy is doing this to a crowd of people, that means he's a fucking Nazi. It also means the people in the crowd are also fucking Nazis. We continue.
And now their churches are being raided and their priests arrested. So the fact that our leaders are calling this freedom tells you a lot about what they're planning here. Of course. Why would you defend this? Because you...
Joe says, here's a $5 super chat. I gotta go, but here's a dinosaur and $5. I love it. I love her. Yeah, there's literally a dinosaur. It's like a little Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yo, my one of my kids is potty training and stuff. And what is he? He pooped? Did he poop?
Both of them did.
Well, how did he get the dinosaur?
Yeah,
he had to pee and poop. He had to do number one. My son has absolutely no dignity now. He's going to hate me when he sees this video. He had to do number one and number two. And once he did, and once we verified it, we got him a little dinosaur. It like moves its arms and it goes, rawr, rawr. Yeah. Look, I love everybody. I'm not mad at anybody. You know, it is what it is. You know, what can you do? What can you do? I showed this before on Facebook.com/America Middle, but for all of you who are new to the Nazi thing, here's how the U.S. media works, okay? If you look at 2050, this is Vox. Vox is an obvious left-wing outlet. We all know that. Here's Vox, 2015. Here's the title. Ukraine's next war. How militias and warlords, and then it talks about, could stoke a second conflict. This is 2015. And then they specifically mentioned members of the Azov battalion, and then they talked about the Nazi problem in Ukraine in Vox. That's 2015. Then in 2022, Putin's Nazi rhetoric reveals his terrifying war aims in Ukraine. Russia's president says he wants the denazification of Ukraine. That actually means regime change. Literally, if you Google Vox, Nazi Ukraine, those articles are stacked one on top of the other. So in 2015, there was a real Nazi problem in Ukraine. But in 2022, that's all Russian propaganda. If Putin says he wants to, and they told on themselves, they said, if Putin says he's going to denazify Ukraine, that's regime change. That means they knew that the regime is populated by Nazis. Mm-hmm. There's no debate on this topic. Wow. None. Dear listener, it is the same policy. Literally, I am telling you, we were fighting Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Then dudes got in a plane and hopped over to Libya, and we were fighting with Al-Qaeda. We do this all the time. We hook up with nasty, horrible people. We hooked up with the Mujahideen over there in Afghanistan. I don't think they were nasty, horrible people, to be honest with you. But we hook up with people and we have them fight our proxy wars for us. That's a fact. When we initiated the Arab Spring, we hooked up with horrible people. We were hooked up with the Muslim Brotherhood, who were the progenitors of Al-Qaeda. The head of the Muslim Brotherhood, if Osama bin Laden, if it was halal to get a tattoo, would have gotten that tattoo. We do this all the time. The problem with the left is that they spent the last 4 years denouncing Nazism, and they cannot bring themselves to the fact that they were denouncing a phantom. There was no Nazism in Trump. But since they made such pronouncements and they condemned everybody who supported this dude, and they were on their moral high horse looking down on everybody that was a supposed Nazi and a white supremacist, they can't deal with the cognitive dissonance of the fact that they are now supporting actual Nazis who have actual bodies. So because you can't deal with that cognitive dissonance, and because these people understand how the mind works and how ego works, because people are so prideful to say I was wrong. That's why I went out of my way to say I was a bloodthirsty fucking murderous motherfucker after 9/11, and I was wrong, and it was the leftists who were the only voice of reason. Is because I love you, dear listener, but I honestly do not care at all what you think of me. I know my limitations. I'm a human being. I am not omniscient. And when you're not omniscient, you're going to make mistakes. It's okay to admit that you were psychologically manipulated about Trump, and now you're having cognitive dissonance about supporting Nazis. That's okay. But a lot of people are not going to say that publicly because your ego is too large. And the problem is, bad people understand that about you. So they're going to G you. And they're going to do a whole bunch of shit in your face, and you won't be able to do a damn thing because you surrendered your mind to those people. That's all that's happening, dear listener. That's all that's happening. We continue.
For its part, Ukraine's defense ministry has stopped pretending this is about freedom. They're just happy they're getting paid, and they're finally crushing any opposition in their own country. And that's why Ukraine's military is now using your tax dollars to produce choreographed dance videos.
Label what differently, Maida?
For social media consumption. Sort of like the COVID nurses. Here's one of them.
Huh? Oh my God. No. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
It's just a grotesque postmodern psyop, and anyone who's fallen for this is brain damaged. This is the same Ukraine.
I don't think they're brain damaged. I don't. Oh, Jesus, help us, Lord. We can.
Defense ministry that lied about the ghost of Kiev and the sailors who cursed out.
Yeah, this is the thing that kills me. It's like the Ukrainian propaganda outlet has used literally a video game in their propaganda efforts. Remember, they were showing how, oh, we shot down a Russian plane. It was literally a intro clip for Call of Duty. Yeah. You remember the whole "fuck you, Russian warship"? That was a lie. Those motherfuckers surrendered.
Yes.
They all surrendered. They came up and said, hey, can we have a sandwich? Can we have some, you know what? I don't know what Russian people eat, but they gave them some coffee or some shit. Then what are you talking about? They lied. Like, we did a shit. Jimmy Dore did like the top 10 lies that they did in like the first 2 weeks. And like to this day, people are still believing. How can you believe anything that comes out of a state-run media? Honestly. Allahu Akbar. We continue. The ghost of Kiev. Yeah, the ghost of Kiev. They had this sniper dude. The guy did Canadian special ops guy. He did like 5 deployments all over the world during the war on terror, and they planted him. They made this big deal about him, and the Spetsnaz blitzed that dude in like 4 seconds, bro. R.I.P. Really? We continue. Ghost of Kiev. Good Lord.
The Russian ship. Now they're just having fun. Because they're beating their real enemies, which of course, as always, are domestic. And Time Magazine is fully on board with this. They just informed their 4 remaining readers that Zelensky's president is the person of the year. And the media chorus is in full scream. John Meacham, the purported historian on MSNBC, believes that Zelensky is really a lot like the Pope.
The Pope!
Zelensky is being fired by the best fundamental impulses in human nature, which is to stand, to defend, to articulate.
The most fundamental aspect of human nature, as anybody will tell you, and as your number one lesson in intelligence goes, once you go through selection, is that self-preservation is the most base human drive. And if you can get somebody to believe that your agenda will accomplish their self-preservation better than theirs or their country's, you have a chance of turning that individual into an agent. That's literally lesson 1. That is what's happening with Mr. Zelensky, not the greatest, most virtuous aspects of human nature. What are you talking about?
To fight back. And I think it's also important to remember that he is a performer. That's where he started. John Paul II was a performer.
Oh, man.
He's telling you, he's an actor.
Right.
He's a performer. They got the guy. He's perfect. And he's from a group of people that you cannot criticize. Yep. Ask Ilhan Omar. See, y'all thought I was going to go with the K or the other K, but I didn't. I went with Ilhan. There's certain groups of people you can't say a fucking word about. And DJ, you better keep your thoughts to yourself. You know what I'm saying to you. We continue.
Ronald Reagan was a performer. Winston Churchill understood the means of the media of his time. He understood the power of radio. Yeah. Franklin Roosevelt understood radio. it's not coincidental that great leaders understand.
Great leaders. So if they'll defend a man who shut down opposition media, arrested his political opponents, arrested priests, sent the...
Thank you, Yasmin, for recognizing the humanity of other people. I really literally mean that. Thank you.
Army into monasteries and then banned a religion. If they'll defend all of that and call it liberty, they'll defend anything.
Mm-hmm.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly open.
It's true. It's true. What was the justification for this? What was the justification for this here? Here we go. The security agency, which is known by the Ukrainian acronym SBU, said the searchers turned up pro-Russian literature, which is used during studies in seminaries and parish schools, including for propaganda of the Russian world. More than 50 people underwent in-depth counterintelligence interviews, that's called torture, including use of polygraph as part of the investigation, the agency said. The SBU, who killed Dennis Kyriv, who's been black-siding people to the point where Amnesty International said, you guys are committing war crimes, and then blaming Russia propaganda for it. That was 2020. The SBU who kidnapped this girl's daughter, and to this moment we don't know if she's alive. The SBU who explicitly threatened to kill the president. That is the group that's heading up this purge of people in Ukraine. I had a friend during the whole Trump thing. He shot a video, and the title of the video was, "Where is your red line?" That's a good question. Yep. Where is your red line? I'm not talking about ideological support. We're talking about $100 billion fucking dollars, dear listener. Where is your red line? What do these people have to do to make you say, you know what? You know what? Russia's February invasion underscored the alliance between President Vladimir Putin and Moscow Patriarch Kirill. Remember, Patriarch Kirill was the guy who was supporting the Russian invasion on the Moscow side, who said Russia was defending Ukrainians from Western liberalism and its gay parades. Remember I told you that? From the start, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church denounced the invasion and such justifications backing Ukraine. In May, the church declared its own self-sufficiency and independence from Moscow. So this group that's currently being persecuted, all the way back from February and May, they said, we denounce this. This is horrible. We're not going to pray for you anymore. We're not going to recognize you. We're self-sufficient and independent. Watch what happens. Now, I got this from NBC, because NBC is going to do their damnedest. While this sounds definitive, the church didn't declare itself autocephalous, the Orthodox gold standard of independence. That was in part to maintain ties with other countries' Orthodox churches that hadn't agreed to such a status. The ULC did give Moscow a liturgical cold shoulder by dropping the commemoration of Kirill as its leader in public worship and blessing its own sacramental oil rather than using Moscow's supply. So this church has explicitly said, we're breaking from you, but what they didn't do was do a complete and total repudiation, because the Russians and Ukrainians are family, and if you do that, you're alienating people from their families. And I'm supposed to believe the SBU when they say, we've found evidence of them supporting Russia. I'm supposed to believe the SBU? The same people that are kidnapping little girls? The same people that are killing people, literally executing people in the fucking street for trying to find peace? The same people that is a military wing of de-democratizing the media? Will you ever, ever, ever be consistent with your own moral code? You know this is wrong. The only reason that you're defending this is because you went on record in public and defended it, and you're too embarrassed to say, I was really fucking wrong here. That's it. You know, they got this thing on the sports show I watch. It's a blind stat thing. Because they'll say, this quarterback has, 52 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, da-da-da-da-da. This quarterback has 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Who's the better quarterback? And you go, well, obviously that guy. And then they put the picture up, and one guy's Baker Mayfield, one guy's Tom Brady. So, like, you had an understanding that Brady was so much better, but then when you look at the stats without taking that bias out, and you just look at the numbers, you go, holy shit. Dear listener, if I were to say to you, there's a country in which the media is nationalized. There is a country in which opposition political parties are deplatformed. There is a country in which human rights atrocities are explicitly being done by taking citizens without trial against their own constitution into black sites, never to be heard from again. There's a place where Amnesty International is saying that we're setting up human shields, including women, children, and babies. This is what these people are doing. Should we support this country? All of the leftists that I know would say, fucking hell no.
Right.
No, we're not going to support these people to the tune of billions of dollars. That's what we would have said. But because it's in the context.
Like everybody's seen the blue and yellow and they're coming out brainwashed.
Correct. Do you support Kevin McCarthy ending aid to Ukraine next Congress? Absolutely. 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 We shouldn't send a single red cent to Ukraine. What we could do is help Amnesty International and other groups like that, give them billions of dollars and have them channel that aid once you get rid of the SBU. See, a lot of you guys don't know this. We could get rid of the SBU tomorrow. We could get rid of Azov tomorrow. We're not. So I would take all these aid, Red Cross, all these, I would send them all to that area. I talk to Putin. I'd say, look, have Crimea, have Donbass. All the people in the Donbass want to be Russian anyway because they've been getting murdered for the last 8-10 years by these murderous Nazis over there. Take Crimea, take Donbass, leave the rest of these people alone, and we're going to spend a couple billion, maybe $1 trillion to rebuild this country over 10 years. And we're going to help these people. But we're going to help it on condition that you stop naming your streets after fucking Stefan Bandera, who murdered a bunch of Jews in the middle of fucking town square. Killed 10,000 of them in one day one time. Just as an aside, do you see how a person like me or a person like Applejack, when we see what happened with Kanye, how we start scratching our heads? Like, you're going after this guy for putting up a tweet, but you're sending billions of dollars to the worst people on the planet. Mm-hmm. So now it puts it in a situation where, like, man, I don't something else is going on with Kanye and Kyrie. There must be something else happening because these people don't have a problem with Nazis. You guys have listen, if, I don't care what you are, Christian, otherwise, all of us believe that our knowledge is limited. Dear listener, is it possible that you've been manipulated by your media? We're about to review in depth a George Carlin stand-up. I'm pretty sure George Carlin says, listen, when the Republicans and the Democrats agree on something, you can know that it's wrong. When was the last time the Republicans and the Democrats agreed on something? It's Iraq? It's Iraq. Now we're looking back and say, holy shit, they lied to us. Shouldn't we have learned from that situation? Shouldn't we learn that our government lies to us, especially when it comes to war and jihad? Shouldn't it have struck an alarm bell when you see Democrats and Republicans giving full-throated support to this shit? You really believe they had y'all putting up all these Ukrainian flags all over the place? You really believe that our government is full of good-hearted people that love the people of Ukraine and freedom? How come they didn't want you to have a Yemeni flag? Well, if you supported Yemen, that would run into cross purpose with the Saudis, and you already know how Biden is with the Saudis. Biden says, I'm going to make the Saudis a pariah for what they did to Jamal Khashoggi. He literally went on his knees and begged to the Saudis, and the Saudis said, we don't want to talk to you. And then the Saudis shot an episode of their own version of Saturday Night Live mocking Joe Biden. No bullshit. Now, I don't like Joe Biden this year. I don't like Joe Biden. He's a racist bastard, but at the end of the day, he represents me. He represents me. And I don't care how progressive I or anybody's ever going to get. It's always going to be red, white, and blue over here. Always. So I got a serious problem with those motherfuckers mocking my president. But that explains to you, dear listener, why none of you have a Yemeni flag on your little post. That and the fact that, well, you know, the Ukrainians look like us. There's a lot of shit at play here, guys. There's a lot of shit at play here. But all I'm saying is the only way that this bullshit will continue is if we as the American people refuse to hold our leaders accountable. They are using your emotions and your ego against you. All you guys came out, you put all this shit on your Facebook, you shot all these videos on YouTube, and you're too embarrassed to say that you got. So now you feel you've crossed an event horizon and you might as well just finish the job. That's what people are saying about Iraq. We need to finish the job. We got to have another troop surge. Oh, you were supposed to go home? Sorry, another 6 months on your 18-month deployment. Joe Biden hates black people. We know that.
But if your mission is to put out what's actually true, that's what your goal is, to put that out into the ether, then you would want to shoot that video and reverse that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. If you're concerned about the truth,
if you don't want to shoot that video, you have to ask yourself, what reason is there that you don't want to shoot the video?
Right. It's just because your ego. It's just your ego. That's all this is. You're embarrassed to say that your company, that your government got you.
But this kind of, I hate to use the word delusion, that everybody believes is going on. Like, people are dying. People are dying because people.
Oh yeah, but Americans, listen. Americans are the most ruthless people on the face of the earth. We're ruthless people. We knew Barack Hussein Obama was dropping so much bombs on Afghanistani children in weddings that he ran out. And we reelected that motherfucker.
So horrible.
We knew what was going on in Guantanamo. Americans do not care. How are my gas prices? How are the food prices? That's all we care about. We don't care about people all over the world, bro. We don't. No. And we only care when our government tells us to care. These people, we talk about thought control. The government is practicing emotion control. Your emotions are being controlled. 3 years ago, Elon Musk was super awesome, Captain Awesome. He's going to save the world, blah, blah, blah. Now these people genuinely hate this dude. A year ago, he's smoking weed on the Joe Rogan show. Everybody's like, yo, where the weed at? Now, nope. Now we hate him. I think the time has come, dear listener, for us to admit that you've been duped. I was completely duped, and some of the shit is irreversible by my government. I was a New Yorker. My girlfriend was in New York at the time. My aunt went down in one of those buildings. And they used that pain and that love for country and that youthful idea that you're going to survive anything and everything, and the American arrogance that you're just going to go in there and wreck shop. They used that against me, and I fell for it. It's okay to admit it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You're a human being. You've never made a mistake in your life. Anybody who is supporting this operation continuing is a deluded person or a sociopath. There are no other options. You're either tricked and deluded or you're an absolute fucking sociopath. And I don't believe most of you are sociopaths. I believe most of you are just too embarrassed to admit it. That's what I think. That's what Oh, my man Dirk is here. Speaking of Dirk.
Oh, hey, what's up, Dirk?
Yeah.
Dirk, that piano piece is crazy.
Yeah, Dirk. Soraya loves your. When I made the little intro thing for mine, she's like, "Oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." And then I played a clip of yours, and that went out the fucking window, bro. She's like, "Oh my God, Dirk, oh my God, oh my God."
You're so
No, it's true.
It
No, you can't hide. It's fine. It's fine. It's
it
fine.
intensified your work.
You should work for the Ukrainians. It intensified the work. Bullshit. I came up with this thing. I took a little sip of absinthe. Okay, took a little sip of absinthe, and hit the guitars.
Yeah,
Boom.
but I immediately took out my recorder.
Boom. Boom. Shit was beautiful, dear listener. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And Shorty was like, "Oh, Ma, it's getting so much attention. It was really wonderful, Ma. I gotta tell you, it was a wonderful moment. It was very wonderful, very beneficial." And then I shot out the thing. I actually sent one to Doug John. I said, "Doug, dude, put something on top of this." He never did. That was like 3 months ago. He's in the chat right now. He never did. I think what happened is he heard and he just saw your boy was just at such a level.
I know, it really was.
Because he wasn't expecting that kind of skill from me. So it's the best thing I've ever written, honestly. So I sent it to a couple people. Nobody put anything on top of it. And then my man Dirk, he put his little piano thing on top. I was like, "Yo, Shorty, listen to this. She fucking lost." Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Is Dirk single? Blah blah blah. All types of shit.
Stop this right now. You are on control.
That's what happened. That's what happens, dear listener.
You should work for Ukraine.
Love you, Crinkle Cut. Yeah, that's what happened. It was the most amazing thing on the planet. I'm gonna hang up now, and actually we're gonna go to practice right now and work on the lyrics and stuff. So, Dirk, be on the lookout because I'm gonna send you Rough Draft Copy 2 is what it's gonna be called. I'll send it to you, and then I've got a couple ideas and things of that nature. But yeah, there we go. Have you ever tried wormwood tea? No, but I will find a way to find the wormwood tea. Guys, if you guys want to see any of your boy's talents, any of his musical talents, I actually dropped a little freestyle on this bitch. Hold on, what was it called again? 4th of July. Here we go. So I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and you guys can check out 4th of July. It's a rap. We're multi-talented in this bitch, y'all. We're multi-talented in this bitch.
Don't forget to let them know on Patreon we're gonna be dropping the video of the Babies doing a cover of our upcoming song.
Yes, the Babies are also gonna do a cover of one of our metal songs. That's coming down the pipes pretty soon, inshallah. Chaga.
I'll give you hints as to what it is.
Yeah. Shout out to Dirk. Shout out to Dirk. I mean, I'm not mad. You know, it is what it is.
Oh, stop.
You know, it's fine. It's fine. I had my little moment in the sun, and then Dirk had to show up with his ridiculous piano. And I mean, what can you do? Whoo! Ian is cold. Look at this. Gas payments go to Exxon and Chevron. Make cash. Make sense? And he even did the sense right. SEN, and then he put CENT. Oh, you got that. You know what? You know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna watch my video, and then we're gonna review my own video, further solidifying that I have the most massive ego on the face of the planet. It's gonna happen. We're gonna watch my rap song. I am going to stop and explain it to you guys. Okay? I'm gonna stop and explain it to you. Okay, we're gonna do a review. We should make this shit a standalone. You should come. You should come for this review. Actually, you should come.
Come like looking like a slob.
Yeah, just come looking like a slob. That's fine. I mean, look. You've already. I think you're okay. You know, Dirk's here. I know you're a little nervous because Dirk's here in the chat, but it'll be okay. This channel's gonna get more corrupt than Ukraine. Ian's like, you're reviewing your own song? Okay, listen, type 22 if you want me to review my own song. If you want me to peace out, just type 3. That's okay. Dirk is saying, you got to explain some of the shit you're saying. You're a talented wordsmith. Oh, that's nice. That's nice, Dirk. Look at Dirk trying to be all conciliatory now that he tried to steal my girl.
It's so ridiculous.
Look at this thing. Shout out to Dirk. Shout out to Dirk. Peace to the gods. Huh?
He put his heart out there.
Oh, really?
The whole situation.
Oh, he put his heart out there. So now, his heart. Oh, his heart.
I said art.
Wow, I didn't know that you put your heart out there. That shit is different, Dirk.
Man,
That's different, bro.
Yep.
Dirk put his heart out there. Oh, you know what? Look right there. Boom. So we're in good shape. We're in good shape. You can have Dirk all you'd like. I got this lady right here.
Okay.
With her 14 diseases or whatever it is, probably. All right, here we go, guys.
What you need.
Here we go. Here we go. The 4th of you lie. Here we go.
Hey, Ian.
She said heart low key. All right, here we go. Here we go. Hey, yo. Beat is crazy. Beat is crazy.
Dirk?
Beat is crazy. What do you want? White power. When do you want it? Right now.
What's happening?
That's the new Ukrainian national anthem in this bitch. You pooped and peed. Come here.
Wait, no. Oh, okay. I just don't know what condition he's in.
I love you. Come here. Say hi to the people.
Say goodnight.
Hi.
Whoops. I don't
Look,
know
go
if
say
I know
hi
what
to the
goes.
people.
Hi.
Say hi, people.
Hi, people.
Say I am.
I am.
All right, get out of here. I love you.
I love you. Can
Okay.
I have some candy?
Yeah, you can have some candy. You pooped and peed. Give me a kiss. All right. Oh. All right. All right. Away with you. Away with you.
I love you. Orion, give me a kiss.
All right, guys. Here we go. Here we go. Fourth of you lie. Just gotta get a couple things off of my chest about current events. If I could have a few moments of your time, dear listener. No disrespect to anyone, left wing, right wing, Republican, Democrat, autocrat, whatever. Shout out to my Middle America crew. Matthew Maeda, Cassie B. Yo! Matthew Maeda. He's like the god over there. Shout out to Matthew Maeda. That's my big homie right there. He's the one that keeps the Facebook.com/American Middle going. Here we go. Shout out to TYT. Everybody's mad at me for the TYT shout out. I still think TYT is useful. Nobody can stand TYT anymore. Kiss and makeup, you heard? Alright, y'all, let's do it. I know this dude from Iraq, he wants Hussein back. Every time we solve a problem, it's like 2 came back. Okay, I know this dude from Iraq, he wants Hussein back. That's a true story. I was actually talking to him. You say, yo, things were a lot better when we had Saddam. It's true. I mean, from their perspective. So I know this dude from Iraq, he wants Hussein back. Every time we solve a problem, it's like 2 came back. So we had ISIS, we had all these other people. Democrat or Republicans, a 2-lane track. This man went out to your show and told you you ain't black. No respect, no decorum, but you still voted for him. Bernie Sanders marched for you, but you couldn't show up for him. Man, they rocked y'all to sleep. CNN is chloroform. Breonna Taylor's still dead. You ain't getting no reform. Nope. That's me dissing black voters. That's me dissing black voters. Particularly in South Carolina and North Carolina during the Democratic primaries, where Biden says, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Yeah. This guy's like an absolute racist and completely disrespected us like on our own space, but then you still voted for him. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders actually marched for us in the 60s and he couldn't get a hearing among black America. Ridiculous. Joanna's like, the beat is nice. I agree. The beat is crazy. Boy, I said what I said. If you can't feel my pain, then you ain't bled where I bled. But you and I the same. Mine is red, yours is red. We ain't gotta play their games. I'm a friend if you're a friend. Can't let them divide us. If we got differences, we gotta set them aside. Cause if we let these killers win, then the West won't survive this. And Earth will be a parking lot bereft of survivors, bro. I'm talking nuclear war. Pretty sure you think that's bad no matter who you were for. Red team, green team, or you blue to the core. We gonna be the first to die once they boot up the war. The first person that floated the nuclear thing to me was DJ, Doug, right there, Doug Johnson. And I was like, man, you silly. It ain't gonna happen.
I feel as though you're disrespecting the artist.
Where? Where?
DJ says, let it run. And you always say, we don't want to disrespect the artist.
Oh.
But carry on. It's your show.
Earth will be a parking lot for what? Bereft. That means there are no survivors left. Earth will be a parking lot bereft of survivors means that there won't be any survivors left after we get done. But yeah, nuclear war. That was Doug Johnson. Like, Doug, come on, man. You wildin' out. Ain't gonna be no nuclear war, nigga. Chill out. I was wrong again. That is definitely on the fucking table, dear listener. Oh, Michelle's got us streaming on the Facebook page. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right, keep going. Let's go. Hey, yo, let me holler at you for a second, shorty, real quick. Like, just need your thoughts on current events. Like, has your life improved exponentially since 2020? Or when you look at the world, do you feel more secure than you did before? I know Trump was the problem, right? But where are these big freaking changes? I know Biden is the solution, but where are these big freaking changes? I know they told you blue no matter who, but where are these big freaking changes? Cause see, from where I sit, shit. I like that because it was like spoken word, but all the things rhymed. Even like from where I sit, shit.
Yeah.
Like
very
I'm very, very proud of that
Very
one.
well
Very
done.
proud of that. That rapper, that was a pretty good technique there. Yeah.
I like the style.
CEOs getting raises, still stealing wages, pigs stealing races, kids still in cages, can't score a check for these bills and inflation, but just last week, 40 billion to Ukrainians, what? I love that little sequence. CEOs getting raises, still stealing wages, kids still in cages, pigs still in races, can't score a check for these bills and inflation, but just last week, 40 billion to Ukrainians. I gotta update it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I gotta update. Look at that face too. That face is hard, bro. That's like Brother Muzone. That's that Muslim face. Like, you know the Muslims over there on one. Brother Minister Farrakhan, we continue. Make that make sense. Can't work because of COVID. Pay tax, raise rent. Europe can't buy from Russia, so gas payments go to Exxon and Chevron. Make cash. Make sense? Woo! Get it? Europe can't buy from Russia, so gas payments go to Exxon and Chevron. Make cash. Make sense? Woo! That's such a good line. I'm teaching y'all. Y'all need to pay attention. Europe can't buy from Russia, so gas payments and inflation, but just last week, 40 billion to Ukrainians. What? Make that make sense. Can't work because of COVID. Pay tax, raise rent. Europe can't buy from Russia, so gas payments go to Exxon and Chevron. Make cash. Make sense? Woo! So we dying over petrol. Shoulda knew better. They was lying from the get-go. Trying to do my part, so I'm riding on the metro. You wrote that Green New Deal, flying on your jet though. That's a lie. I'm not riding on any public transportation. I take regular vehicles, but I had to have something that rhyme with petrol.
Right. So.
And if you're a municipal person, you're taking. The point is, these people are telling us to the Green New Deal, all that shit. You know, I'm a follow the science guy, so I'm like trying, but at the same time, like, you wrote the Green New Deal flying on a jet, on your private jet, Bernie, and AOC. So it just talks about like the hypocrisy of like the ideals of progressivism are very high. But we currently don't have anybody that incarnates and embodies those principles. So it's kind of like a, yeah. Because of COVID, pay tax, raise rent. Europe can't buy from Russia, so gas payments go to Exxon and Chevron. Make cash. Make sense? Woo! So we dying over petrol. Shoulda knew better. They was lying from the get-go. Trying to do my part, so I'm riding on the metro. You wrote that Green New Deal, flying on your jet though. This is my favorite part right here. I got to tell you guys. This next part is my favorite part right here. Yeah. Get-go. Trying to do my part, so I'm riding on the metro. You wrote that Green New Deal, flying on your jet though. Keep your eyes closed to hypocrisy to Nazi. 2016 it was Republicans or Nazis. 2022 and now we funding fucking Nazis. Playing mind games with you motherfucking Yahtzee. Woo! That boy hard! That boy hard! Keep your eyes closed to hypocrisy to Nazi. You don't want to see your own hypocrisy, right? 2016, it was Republicans and Nazis. 2022, and now we funded fucking Nazis. Playing mind games with you motherfucking Yahtzee. Yep. That's over with. Over!
Boom.
This next part, I wrote, me and Sawyer went on a car ride from Portland to back to our town. And the whole next part of this verse, I wrote in that. I wrote in the car as we were talking. Well, I didn't.
It's a total of a 45-minute drive. But
yeah.
I don't even know if you were working on it the whole time.
I just did the Jay-Z thing, and I just did all the shit in my head.
Yep.
That's why people were asking for
no pen, no paper.
Yeah, no pen. Who you gonna find doper than him with no pen? Just draw off inspiration. Soon you gonna see you can't replace him. Well, you can with Vin. Oh, it's a freestyle. We continue. Keep keep your eyes closed to hypocrisy, the Nazi. 2016 it was Republicans or Nazis. 2022 and now we funding fucking Nazis. Playing mind games with you motherfucking Yahtzee. Speak for little babies cause you know they got no rights. But if you ain't meant for all, then how the fuck is you pro-life? It's true. I speak for little babies because they got no rights in this country. I had people on this channel telling me, babies are human, but it doesn't have any rights. Okay. But at the same time, like, how can you be against Medicare for all? That's literally designed to save the lives of a bunch of Americans and then say you're pro-life. That doesn't make sense. People are saying, oh, you never went after the Republicans in your rap. I did here. I go after hypocrites in my rap. The Republicans have never pretended to care about, like, regular people. It's the progressives that do that. We continue. Democracy, the Nazi. 2016 it was Republicans or Nazis. 2022 and now we funding fucking Nazis. Playing mind games with you motherfucking Yahtzee. Speak for little babies cause you know they got no rights. But if you ain't meant for all, then how the fuck is you pro-life? AOC, if you left, then how the fuck is you so right? You out for progress, but the progress is slow, right? That's me going after AOC. She does a lot of right-wing things. Like, she voted for all of Trump's security bills and shit. We were giving billions of dollars to Trump to distribute to the military. It's like, you guys are saying that this guy was like the incarnation of Adolf Hitler, but you're giving him billions of dollars for war. These are right-wing policies. In my mind, all this war jihad stuff is a right-wing thing. It's not a left-wing thing. But obviously I've had to amend that because it's just appears it's an American thing. We continue. With you motherfucking Yahtzee. Speak for little babies cause you know they got no rights. But if you ain't meant for all, then how the fuck is you pro-life? AOC, if you left, then how the fuck is you so right? You out for progress, but the progress is slow, right? Gotta catch you at the Met Gala. No self-awareness, like, why are we upset at her? Yeah, I got receipts, but I don't need to get data. Cozy with Pelosi, get your votes, but you getting at her. It's AOC. At the end of the day, this was me like slowly becoming disillusioned with AOC. I've defended AOC a bunch of times. I finally had to stop defending her after she characterized the anti-war protesters as Russian propagandists. That was just the end of it for me. Like, you can dismiss them, you can argue with them, but for her to say that was the end of it for me and AOC. That diss was specifically about how she wasn't standing up for the Amazon union workers. She said she couldn't make it, and then she ended up in New York anyway at the Met Gala with a fucking tax the rich dress on. And she didn't. She's lacking self-awareness because she's in certain echo chambers where everybody says she's the greatest thing in the world, and then she's the future of the party. And I do believe she's the future of the party, but she's, in my view, being molded by Nancy Pelosi. She's going to be an institutional figure in the Democratic Party, but she's never going to actually, she's going to slowly over the years become everything that she stated that she was against. And I believe she's going to be a worse version of Nancy Pelosi when she becomes full-born. Yeah. So the AOC thing was pretty heartbreaking for me, but it appears to me that Joanna's right. That's the incrementalism we're being sold. Yeah, she's completely right. And you know, for me, like AOC, that was a really, really disappointing thing. Like, there's a lot of things I could have said about her, but the whole point in the rap was I got receipts. I mean, I could go through, but the real issue is how could she be cozy with a person like Nancy Pelosi? If she was a real rider, if she was like a real life gangster fighting for the people, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't be able to tolerate her. Like, one of them would have to go. So the whole point of that line was to say, I don't need to show you all this extra shit. All you need to know is that Nancy Pelosi likes her. Like, that's it. So, which is a form of the genetic fallacy, but I still have proof. So we continue. Close the hypocrisy to not. Gotta catch you at the Met Gala. No self-awareness, like, why are we upset at her? Yeah, I got receipts, but I don't need to get data. Cozy with Pelosi, get your votes, but you getting at her. How them student loans, how them voting rights. Blue would do you wrong, and you know it, right? We gon' prove them wrong. We gon' show some fight. Me and you were strong, and you know it, right? So that right there, I had a red bandana, and then I had a blue bandana. So, like, red are Republicans, blue are Democrats, or Bloods and Crips, whatever. It's just a way of saying, like, The only way we're going to figure this shit out, when I said me and you are strong, I was specifically saying us as Republicans and Democrats because we're Americans. Me and you are strong. We're going to figure this shit out together. We can't rely on these political parties to do that. So the subliminal messaging throughout the whole thing was, I'm wearing a red bandana, but I got a blue bandana, like red and blue together, blah, 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 blah. So that was the thing. Like, I wanted to end it on a positive note and like put some power to the people, because it seems pretty disempowering that we're being manipulated and lied to, and they're taking our money and all types of shit. But the point of the thing is to say, hey, we still have some power if we can get past this red blue bullshit and really push the shit. So right. Talk to him, brother minister. Ayo, if you hadn't figured it out by now, left wing, right wing, same horrible bird leading us to the same horrible hellscape, dear listener. And these fools got us at each other's throats so that we're so distracted fighting one another and we don't see what they're doing. These fools almost got us into a nuclear war, y'all. The inmates are running the asylum here. We gotta take this power back, you heard? Speaking of which, rest in peace all the beautiful people in Ukraine. Rest in peace all the beautiful people lost on the Russian side. Hey, yo, if you see the whole human race as your family, we ain't gotta pick a side, right? Shout out to Savvy Sabs. Savvy Sabs! Doing the work on the street. She ain't talking about it, she's being about it. That's what leadership is, you heard? Now I got nothing else to say. I can't say no more other than Jimmy Dore 2024. We gone. Gang shit. Gang shit. Gang shit. All right. This rap made me check her out. Oh, Savvy Sabs. All right, good. Yeah, shout out to Savvy Sabs. Like, that girl is on the streets, bro. She's like hitting the pavement like it's no joke. She's revolutionary black neighborhood, blah blah blah. I forgot what they're called, but they're some real gangsters. Okay, so I reviewed that song. I think that guy's got bars for days.
I agree.
I like that spoken word thing at the beginning, the little middle part.
Unique style,
very unique style, very 90s and smooth. No homo, but I think the guy's. I was gonna say no homo. He's a very handsome bastard. Very handsome. Very handsome. That's what you used to say in the hood, because we're too insecure in our masculinity. So like, if it's like after we got done with the rumble and some shit, like, yo man, I love you, bro. No homo. I'm just saying I love you. Because you feel all emotional after some shit that went down. Everybody's bleeding and shit. Everybody's all like loving each other and shit. Like, yeah, nigga, we just did that shit. Blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, I love you, nigga. Yeah, no homo. Oh yeah, yeah.
I say that in 2022 though. I feel like that's probably considered offensive.
Okay. All right. So how do you revolutionary blackout? He's giving himself an 11. That's either homegirl or Jambi.
Oh, right.
Okay. What do you give the song? What do you give the song?
Oh, well, I just thought it was very well executed. The video was also very good.
The video was better than the lyrics for sure. Go ahead. Shout out to the videographer, inshallah.
Yeah. Literally, I think that the breakdown was flawless. I think that the way that it was executed was done very well. I think that there was some very solid topics that were brought up in a very excellent way. And I think it was really good. Like, I think that, I don't think that I'm just saying it because you're my guy. I think I really like it. I thought that you did really good. And then you said stuff that then it was like became prophetic with the gas stuff. Remember you were like,
oh yeah,
the Exxon,
yeah.
Stuff. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, the Europeans are about to increase by like 35% on that bitch.
Yeah, I just think overall this is a solid 11.
I give this one a. I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5. Solid 8.5. It was basically, freestyle is a verse that doesn't have any chorus or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just a stream of thought. I would have liked some vocals. We could have done something with the.
That's true. That's true. We could have.
We could have added some of your vocals in there.
You knew I was gonna end up dragging my feet, so.
Yeah. We would be in this bitch for you guys wouldn't even see that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was Soraya. I'm gonna give this. What did I say? Solid 8.5. Solid 8.5. But stay tuned. We do have some hard freaking metal coming out. We've also got some minor key. If you like to be depressed and sad and shit, Dirk and Soraya are working on a song together. I think I'm in it a little bit with the guitar, but yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, we could do a track. Yeah, me and Applejack did a song together too. Like there's a rough cut on that bitch. It is so good. It is so good. It was the one where I was talking about that little situation that me and Reef got in that situation. It's the one I showed you with the Reef. You had the West and I had the weapon in my transport. Blah 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 blah. All right, guys. Much love to all you beautiful people. This was a really fun one. We hope to catch you back. Same bad time, same back channel. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Hold on. Let me see. Does this outro still work? No, it doesn't.
I'm sure he did, Applejack. I've never seen him do anything that came out.
You gotta hear his verses though. His verse on that track was hard, bro. It was legit hard. All right.
Where is it? How come I haven't heard it?
I'm going to play it for you right after we get out of this thing. All right, guys. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America. We